first thing you should be doing if you're intending to commence building works is to determine whether the works that you're carrying out are notifiable. The two most common notifiable elements of building works apply to extensions and to works on the actual party wall, which is the wall shared between you and your neighbour. Referring back to extension works, the most common notifiable element of building works there are the foundations. If these are being excavated within 3 metres of your neighbour's property and to an assumed lower level, then you will need to notify your neighbour under Section 6 of the Act. The second thing that you should be aware of as the building owner when planning to start your works is to make sure that the notices that have been served on your neighbours have been properly served, and also that they've had time to respond. I often hear neighbours who say to me, well, the neighbour said that he was okay with the works and I didn't have to bother serving him a notice. It is you that has to comply with the Act, not the neighbour, and therefore you are the person responsible for serving the notice and getting the acknowledgement back from the neighbour, whether they consent to the works or whether they dissent. The third thing you should be aware of when carrying out building works which affect your neighbour is the issue of access. It's always a sensitive issue with neighbours when you have to access their property. Under the Act, if you're carrying out notifiable works, you are entitled to access to your neighbour's property, but you must make sure that you give 14 days notice in writing to your neighbour. This must come under a award that has been issued and cannot be issued in isolation. What you should be thinking about as a building owner prior to commencing your building works is your neighbour and the impact that the building works are going to have on that neighbour. First thing you should be doing is let the neighbour know at least 5 days in advance that your works are about to commence, and any helpful suggestions at that stage that can minimise the impact of the work to the neighbour, such as deliveries, would be well discussed at that stage. Finally, I always recommend that the award is explained to the builder. Essential items such as access and protection of the neighbour's property must be explained to the builder, and he must make sure that he takes this into account during the building process.